Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. proves that even when you get to design a capital from scratch, you can still screw it up spectacularly. Pierre L'Enfant's 1791 plan created diagonal avenues intersecting a grid, which sounds elegant until you realize it created 72 different types of intersections where nobody knows who has right-of-way. The result? A city where getting lost is a constitutional right. The Height Act of 1910 limits buildings to 130 feet, forcing everyone to sprawl into Maryland and Virginia. Congratulations, you've created a metro area where 80% of workers commute from other states. Your average commute is 87 minutes daily because the Founding Fathers didn't predict the Metro Red Line. The city is carved into quadrants, with 4 different streets all named First Street. Need directions? Specify if you mean First Street NW, NE, SE, or SW, or you'll end up 6 miles from your destination. They named streets with a letter system that skips J because it looks like I. That's not urban planning, that's alphabet paranoia. The National Mall sounds nice until you realize it's a 2-mile dead zone of monuments where nobody actually lives. The city center is museums and federal buildings that empty at 6 p.m., turning downtown into a wind tunnel with overpriced parking. Rock Creek Parkway floods every spring because they built a commuter highway in a floodplain. The metro catches fire monthly and still costs $6 per ride. The city that governs America can't govern itself. Literally, Congress controls the budget.
Canberra. Australia needed a capital so badly they built one in the middle of absolutely nothing. Canberra is what happens when you let landscape architects design a city. Walter Burley Griffin won a competition in 1912 with a design featuring geometric patterns and axes aligned to mountains. It looks stunning from space. Shame nobody lives in space. The city is organized in a hierarchy of circles and hexagons that make navigation a geometry test. Parliamentary Triangle sits at the center, surrounded by concentric suburban sprawl that goes nowhere. The population density is lower than most farming communities. They built a capital for 25,000 people. Now 450,000 live there, mostly confused. Everything is 20 minutes apart by car and impossible by foot. The city center is civic, a collection of brutalist buildings around a bus interchange. That's not a downtown, that's a transit hub with delusions of grandeur. Attempting to walk anywhere means crossing 8-lane roads with traffic lights timed for maximum frustration. The city has one major employer, the government. When Parliament isn't in session, Canberra becomes Australia's most expensive ghost town. They built an artificial lake in the center because apparently water features solve urban planning. Lake Burley Griffin is lovely, but doesn't change the fact that your nearest coffee shop is a 15-minute drive. Public transit consists of buses that run on optimism and suggestions. The light rail project took 12 years and cost $2 billion to connect 12 kilometers. That's $166 million per kilometer for a tram that gets stuck in traffic. The city planning itself is stuck in 1912.
Dhaka. Dhaka is what happens when you pack 23 million people into a city designed for 2 million. This capital makes Mumbai look organized. The population density in some areas hits 115,000 people per square kilometer. That's not a city, that's humanity pressed into a brick. The average traffic speed is 7 kilometers per hour, walking pace. Commuters spend 3 to 5 hours daily in gridlock that makes LA look like the Autobahn. The city has 11,000 kilometers of road, but adds 1,000 vehicles daily. That math doesn't work in any universe. Only 7% of the city is covered by roads, compared to 25 to 30% in functional cities. The rest is buildings packed so tightly you can shake hands with 6 neighbors from your window. They started building a metro in 2016 with a completion date that changes annually like a doomsday prediction. The Buriganga River is clinically dead from pollution, 0 dissolved oxygen. Tanneries dump chromium directly into water that people bathe in downstream. The air quality ranks among the world's worst, with PM 2.5 levels hitting 500 during winter. 50 is considered hazardous. Breathing in Dhaka is a contact sport. Flooding occurs annually because 40% of the city is below sea level, and drainage systems last upgraded in 1950. The rickshaw, bicycle, car, bus, and pedestrian all share the same lane because lane markings are suggestions from a more optimistic time. Building codes are enforced by hoping really hard. Dhaka doesn't have urban planning, it has urban happening.
Jakarta. Jakarta is sinking 25 centimeters per year, making it the fastest sinking city on Earth. The solution? Build a giant seawall and hope. The capital sits on swampy land at sea level, extracts groundwater unsustainably, and acts surprised when buildings tilt like drunk tourists. The city has 28 million people spread across a metro area with no functional mass transit until 2019. The MRT has one line. One. The city is 650 square kilometers. Your commute from South Jakarta to North Jakarta takes 3 hours to travel 25 kilometers. The city loses $6.5 billion annually to traffic congestion. They built a monorail in 2004 that never opened. The concrete pillars stand as monuments to corruption and incompetence. The city has 27 million motorcycles navigating roads designed for 2 million vehicles. Traffic lanes are theoretical concepts that nobody practices. Flooding happens so regularly they have a word for it: Banjir. The city sits in a floodplain, paved over wetlands, dumped garbage in rivers, and wonders why water rises every monsoon. The Chiliwang River is essentially an open sewer that overflows into neighborhoods. Jakarta's pollution is so bad, the government sued the president, itself, for violating clean air laws, and won. That's bureaucratic self-awareness at catastrophic levels. The solution to sinking, flooding, and choking? Build a new capital in Borneo. That's not fixing Jakarta, that's admitting defeat and running away. Indonesia announced they're moving the capital to Nusantara in Borneo, abandoning 30 million people in a sinking city. That's not urban planning, that's urban abandonment.
Islamabad. Pakistan said, let's build a planned capital in 1960 and created the world's most boring grid. Islamabad is organized into sectors with numbers and letters like a spreadsheet became sentient. You don't live in a neighborhood, you live in F6/2 or G10/4. That's not an address, that's a bingo card. The city is beautiful, green, and completely unwalkable. Each sector is separated by wide roads designed for cars that didn't exist in 1960. Walking from sector F7 to F6, adjacent sectors, means crossing 8-lane roads with no pedestrian infrastructure. The metro bus runs on one axis, leaving 90% of the city unserved. They separated residential, commercial, and diplomatic zones so efficiently that you need a car to exist. The blue area is the business district, a stretch of road, not an actual district. Jinnah Avenue is 12 lanes wide with nothing on either side but grass and regret. The city was designed for 500,000, now 2 million live there, mostly in expanded sectors that ignored the original plan. Rawalpindi, the twin city, has more life because it grew organically, chaotically. Islamabad has order but zero soul. The diplomatic enclave has embassies surrounded by blast walls and checkpoints, turning entire neighborhoods into fortified zones. The city's claim to fame is being well planned, which is code for nothing ever happens here. They built wide boulevards perfect for parades, but forgot humans need sidewalks. The Margala Hills are gorgeous, but accessing them requires driving because walkability is a myth. The city shuts down at 10 p.m. because there's nowhere to go. Islamabad proves that planning everything kills spontaneity, street life, and any reason to visit. Abuja. Nigeria needed a neutral capital, so they built Abuja in the geographic center in 1991. The city was planned for 3 million, but grew to 6 million with infrastructure for half that. The master plan featured distinct districts, green spaces, and dreams. Reality? The city has massive income inequality visible from space. The central district has government buildings and unused monuments. Surrounding it are sprawling informal settlements like Mpape and Lugbe, where most people actually live. They designed the city for cars in a country where most people can't afford cars. Public transport is informal buses, danfos, that don't follow routes or schedules. Traffic is chaos because road laws are philosophical suggestions. The city floods despite being purpose-built on high ground. They paved over natural drainage, built on floodplains, and ignored hydrology. The FCT, Federal Capital Territory, has the highest cost of living in Nigeria while lacking basic services in most areas. Land speculation is so rampant that allocated plots sit empty for decades. You can buy a plot in Abuja, but good luck finding water, power, or roads. The government allocated land for schools and hospitals that were never built, creating empty lots surrounded by slums. Abuja proves that starting from scratch means nothing if you ignore the people who actually live there. The city works for ministers and fails for everyone else.
London. London is a global capital that grew from a Roman settlement and never stopped to think about planning. The result? A 2,000-year-old maze where streets have names like the Angel and directions like near the Tesco that used to be a Woolworths. The Tube is the world's oldest metro and feels like it. Lines shut down weekly for engineering works that never actually fix anything. The Northern Line has 2 branches that confuse tourists into ending up in Morden instead of Edgware. Good luck. Central London was built for horses, then adapted for cars, then gave up. Congestion charge zones cost £15 daily and don't reduce congestion, they just monetize misery. Cycling infrastructure is a painted line next to buses actively trying to kill you. Housing is so expensive that £500,000 buys a studio apartment where the bed folds into the kitchen. Average rent is £2,000 monthly for a place where you can touch all 4 walls simultaneously. The solution? Build luxury apartments that sit empty as investments, while Londoners commute 90 minutes from outside the M25. The city has 33 boroughs with conflicting regulations. What's legal in Camden is banned in Westminster. Planning permission takes years and requires consulting 47 different agencies. They protect historic views while approving glass monstrosities like the walkie-talkie that literally melts cars. London sprawls across 1,500 square kilometers with no coherent plan. The green belt prevents expansion, forcing density increases in a Victorian infrastructure. The Elizabeth Line took 13 years and £19 billion to build 100 kilometers. That's £190 million per kilometer for a train that's already over capacity. London works despite its design, not because of it. The city survives on historical momentum and financial desperation. Dodoma. Tanzania announced in 1973 that Dodoma would replace Dar es Salaam as the capital. 50 years later, Parliament meets in Dodoma while every actual government function happens in Dar es Salaam. This is the world's longest government move, beating a sloth's migration. They built a new parliament building, presidential palace, and government offices in Dodoma. Then everyone continued working in Dar es Salaam because Dodoma has no infrastructure, no international airport, and no reason to exist as a capital except geographic centrality. The master plan, designed for 400,000, has 700,000 plus residents, but the city center remains underdeveloped. They built wide boulevards that go nowhere. Government ministries are technically headquartered in Dodoma, but maintain operational offices in Dar es Salaam. Foreign embassies refused to move, staying in Dar es Salaam where actual business happens. The city is 450 kilometers inland with limited transport connections.
Visiting your own capital from the largest city takes 6+ hours by bus on deteriorating roads. They invested billions in a capital that nobody wanted. Parliament sessions in Dodoma require MPs to travel from Dar es Salaam, making governance a field trip. The economy, ports, and international connections remain in Dar es Salaam. Dodoma is a capital in name only, a 50-year planning failure that continues because admitting defeat costs more than pretending success.